Hey, welcome back, beautiful. This video is for those who overthink a lot mid-conversation. I think that there are many people who struggle with this. Otherwise, there are many people who somewhat struggle with this but have learned to cope with it with habitual conversation tactics. For example, they will laugh at something they don't find funny to keep the conversation going, or they'll nod their head excessively, and a lot of things like that. If you're somebody who struggles with overanalyzing and overthinking while you're in a conversation, you'll be talking to that person and then you start to consider, oh shit, I'm staring into their eyes too long. I should probably, look away or look here and there. And then you start thinking about what exactly can you say in order to impress that person. And sometimes mid-conversation, they might say something that would have hit you in some funny way. Maybe you think that you have upset them and that's why they said that certain thing, or was that an indirect attack towards me because I do that thing that they just mentioned. And even though the conversation has moved on, your brain is stuck on that one thing they said. And then you rely on your habitual responses to keep the conversation going, but you're actually still stuck on that thing and you start to drift and dissociate and you're really distracted mid-conversation. But you don't want that to happen. You want your conversation to feel comfortable. You don't want to feel so anxious and disconnected from the conversation. And if you are someone who overthinks a lot mid-conversation, you probably feel like you're always being evaluated mid-conversation. And in order to impress them so you don't fuck it up or chase their love and care for you away, you act out in very people-pleasing ways or do many things that feel incredibly inauthentic. And you don't like that. Why can't you just be comfortable in the conversation and then just focus on the words they're saying and you're saying and you just have a smooth conversation without having to jump all over the place? You want connection, you want to be listened to properly, you want to listen to them properly, and you want that proper back and forth where there's no anxiousness involved and it's just a conversation and you're sick and tired of obsessing over each move you make mid-conversation, and you're sick and tired of drifting away or feeling like you fucked it up and feeling like you have to perform very well mid-conversation and that's why you fuck it up. So let me tell you why this happens. First of all, many people will attribute overthinking to a habitual response. This could be because overthinking helped you feel safer in the past, or you feel like you have to overthink so that you can rest safely in that predictability of the situation. You feel like you're making progress towards making the situation more predictable, and that's safer, that's less risky, because you've convinced yourself that by considering every situation, you're preparing yourself, and then when the situation happens, you'll be more comfortable. One way overthinking could have happened is maybe you grew up in a household where you were always criticized, ignored, or punished for speaking up, for talking back. And then it has kind of wired your brain to think that it is not safe for you to express how you feel about something. And because of that, you start to express it to yourself. So you have the conflict in your own head instead of saying it out loud, and instead of letting the other person respond to it and both of you can work your way out of whatever emotional spark that happened in your head. So you start to deal with it yourself while in the conversation. If you grew up and you always felt like you were punished for feeling certain ways, you were honest with your emotions, you expressed it, and you were punished for it, then you'd be like, yo, what the fuck? And now you're kind of afraid that if you express your emotions, you'll be dismissed or they will take away their love and care for you, or you'll chase them away. And now you're terrified of burdening people with whatever you have that's in your head. And you've learned to cope with this by dissociating, which means you kind of extract your soul from your body. And then you start to stare at yourself from a third person's perspective instead of actually being in the moment, understanding your thoughts, expressing it out, having a conversation with that person, and keeping it honest, keeping it real. If you think of something or you're harping on the thought, you would express it or say, sorry, I was thinking about something. And as you habitually do more and more of this dissociation, you start to subconsciously rely on it because you think that dissociating, analyzing and evaluating what you've done and thinking ahead how they will react to certain things before you do those certain things makes things more predictable, makes things less scary because you have already predicted the outcome of what is going to happen when you do that thing. You have the idea that that is safer and that's why you rely on dissociation and you kind of let it keep happening. But that's not true at all. The dissociation has actually made it far harder for you to connect with the other person. And it actually makes you more paranoid because you're always very cautious. You're always considering, what if I do this, what if I do that, then I'll receive this perceived outcome that I've already predicted. Then now you're careful of where you step and the words you say are very shallow. They are far from your honest expression. And then after that, sometimes you find yourself hating having conversations because it's just so uncomfortable and it's so difficult. It's like, why? I have to consider all these different paths. It's too mentally taxing. Why the hell would I want to have a conversation? So if you want to learn how to connect with people again and have wonderful, genuine conversation, then we need to tackle this. If you rely on the dissociation, you become more paranoid, and then you will tend to overreact more to even situations you've already predicted. Every time you open your mouth or you feel like you're being evaluated, you start scanning for danger, you start scanning for signs that they are taking away their love and affection from you. They might be starting to dismiss you, or you might have upset them, and you start to consider all these little things to the point where you get so paranoid that if they look a different direction while speaking to you, you're like, oh shit, I just upset them. Or if they start to sound uninterested, then you start taking it personally, like, fuck, I'm not good at speaking to people, and I better say something impressive so I can catch their attention again. You start to consider all these things. And they really take away from your conversation, and they make conversations such a pain in the ass. Did they just look away? Do I sound weird? Do they think I'm annoying? We might not have those exact phrases, of course, because they're kind of autistic to, rehearse a full clean sentence in our head about it, but we subconsciously consider these things. We are incredibly afraid of offending them or upsetting them or getting in their way or being a burden. I think overall you can simply classify it as you don't feel safe. But here's the good news. You can absolutely train it. And you can make significant progress hella quickly. So let's talk about how you can actually change and get more comfortable mid-conversation. By the way, if you actually want to make friends, if you actually want to become more comfortable around other people and become a more respected person, check out my Social Resilience Handbook. It will get you from beginner to actually being quite comfortable around people. It's available for pre-order, so the price is ridiculously low right now. If you actually want to change, you should hella take a look. I put in everything I got in there. I went from ridiculously socially anxious to performing in stage in like 2 months, so I know what works and I put everything I know in there. So if you actually want to change, you can click on the link in the description. Let's get into what you can actually do to fix this. There are many different tactics that many people will talk about, but the fundamentally most important ones are more exposure, which basically means more practice, learning to be comfortable in silence and noticing what habitual thoughts your brain generates when you start to feel uncomfortable or awkward, and then addressing those thoughts knowing that they are full of horseshit and you don't need to think about them. Third is, since you're a beginner, we can give you some guidelines and tactics to follow so that when things get hard and you find yourself straying away, you can focus on just using those tactics quickly like a skill move in a game, to buy yourself some time and then bring yourself together, collect yourself, and back to the present moment. First, let's talk about exposure. The more social exposure you get, the better. When you feel a situation gets awkward, or you're having a difficult conversation, or you're starting to drift and it gets really uncomfortable, you are literally XP farming. You are leveling up right there. So farm those moments. I know it feels like shit, but when you play the MMORPG, when you want to get a special weapon or farm some XP or farm some gold, you're probably not going to be doing the most fun things, You're probably, going somewhere to slay some goblins for a few hours, and that's fucking boring. So is social exposure. This will be your highest leverage. Becoming more comfortable in that awkward feeling, knowing that it's gonna come, knowing that those uncomfortable feelings are going to come, and you're gonna learn to get used to that. You have to. There is no other way around this. The more you sit in those situations, the better it feels, the more comfortable it feels, because you know what to expect. You know what thoughts your brain will generate. So I want you to deliberately seek out those moments, and you'll know exactly how to. Do what you can, do whatever you can, and keep going back the next day. Alright, it's not going to be easy to hold yourself together because you're going to want to give up after 1 day or 2 days. Motivation will always fly away. But if you're able to pull yourself together and show up and go into conversations and letting yourself sit in it without trying to get away, and let yourself overthink, notice how uncomfortable it gets, notice how your brain flies over the place, but sit in there and try new things that can help you get rid of those thoughts. That will be your ultimate leverage, and that will be exactly how you get over this. So for the next few days, for the next week, I want you to focus on increasing your social opportunity. I want you to increase the amount of social situations you get into. So I want you to leave the house more. I want you to have more conversations. I want you to have more reasons to speak to people. If there's a gym you frequent, share machines more often. Try to smile and nod to the guy working at the front. If you're going to school, ask for favors more often, and try to build a conversation from there. Give them compliments, get into a conversation and feel uncomfortable in it and sit in it. Same thing with if you're going to work. Same thing if you're talking to a cashier, a waiter, a receptionist. Try to get a conversation and sit in that conversation. Feel uncomfortable as hell. Feel yourself trying to be perfect. Hate yourself for doing that, and then go back and think about how you can not do that again. And keep in mind that you don't want to be evaluating mid-conversation. Always evaluate after. So in the conversation itself, you don't want to focus on evaluating. You just want to focus on the second you have a thought, you practice bringing yourself back to the conversation. That's all you want to think about. Then, post-conversation, you are allowed to evaluate. I know, a lot of us socially anxious overthinkers, we like to rehearse conversations and think about how we're gonna make the perfect comebacks and say the things in the perfect way. None of that. What we're looking to improve is not the exact words we say, but how comfortable we feel, how much we are connecting with the other person, and where our attention is. That's what we focus on fixing. And that's what we want to evaluate post-conversation. And next, the second thing, training yourself to be comfortable in the silent moments. The silent moments are the biggest tests. The silent moments are when your brain wants to wander to the most retarded places. So it's the silent moments that you know will come. It is unavoidable that in every conversation there will be silent moments. So understand that and take it like a good boy. It's going to come. Whenever you speak to someone, it's going to come. So don't be afraid of it. Don't start to be very avoidant of it and very paranoid of it. And it'll feel awkward and uncomfortable. The silence is beautiful, alright? And the silence is also where all the XP is. So you want to farm the XP. So what you're going to do is, when you go into a conversation, you know silence is going to happen. And you know that that's the prime moment where your brain starts to think of the most retarded shit. So for the next week, I want you to focus on taking note of what thoughts come up when it gets silent. And smile to yourself because of it, because now you know. Now you know that thoughts are going to come when it's silent. So you can feel all these nonsense thoughts that come into your head, beating yourself up. Oh my god, they're going to be uninterested in me if I stay silent for too long. I better carry this conversation. And if you think like that, you're going to start filling up the silence with a lot of yeah, and then you start to try to say some filler sentence that has nothing to do with the conversation, and then the other person's like, yo, what the fuck are you doing, man? Where's this conversation going? And they understand it too, because they know, everybody subconsciously knows people are afraid of awkward moments. If something feels awkward, it feels awkward. But it's about being comfortable and knowing that that awkward moment exists. And that awkward moment is not going to cause them to take away their affection for you or their attention for you, or not going to cause them to withdraw because you're the one who made it awkward and you're the one making everything uncomfortable. It's not. It's just part of the conversation. It's not part of you. Of course, there are skills you can adopt to make conversations less awkward, but for the most part, it's almost inevitable. Awkward moments will be there even in conversations with the most charismatic people, the most comfortable people. But they know how to laugh it off. They know how to point it out. They know how to dance in it, So for the next week, your focus will be staying aware that uncomfortable and awkward moments will be there. And you just take note of the thoughts that come into your head during those moments. And you resist it. You resist breaking the silence. No matter how bad you want it, the longer you can resist, the better you'll get, the more XP you'll farm. And third, let's look at what tactics you can use, what special moves you can use that would buy you some time to bring your attention back into the present moment when you find yourself drifting and overthinking. First, when you are autistically rehearsing conversations, because we are socially anxious like that, you start to think of what automatic replies you can have to certain things. You start to think of how you can sound the most perfect and the most impressive. And that's actually not a terrible thing, but you have to learn to use it correctly. I want you to think of some friendly fixed lines you can jump to when things get weird, or when things go silent, or where you don't know what to say next after you heard what they said, or perhaps your mind is in a different place and you kind of roughly get what they said. I want you to think of some fixed lines you can say during those moments, some special moves you can spam. For example, they just open up to you or told you a story, but whoops, your mind drifted so you didn't really fucking hear what they said. Busted, by the way. A fixed phrase or sentence you can use for those situations are like, yeah, I imagine that felt terrible, or I imagine that felt great, and then they'll elaborate on how that thing that happened made them feel. Or let's say they finished their story, you've already nodded in reassurance like, I've heard you. And then you want to get them to tell another story so that, you can buy yourself some time to pull yourself back into the present moment. You can say something like, oh, I remember seeing you do this on your Instagram, or something. That was fucking cool, or oh shit, that shit sucks. Or something like that. I remember seeing you doing this. Just get them into telling the story so you can buy yourself some time to focus, stop drifting. Or you can just spill the most fucking basic line that works all the time. What do you do with your free time? Or what are you doing nowadays? Just something like that. You think of those fixed lines you can kind of spam, and you just spam them when you need to. And that will keep you grounded. It will act as a safety net for knowing that, eventually you're going to drift, because we're not perfect. We're gonna drift eventually anyway, so why not have some things prepared? And as you have more and more exposure in conversation, these things will become second nature. You won't even have to think of them. They'll become like automatic special moves that you just use when, your mind drifted and you don't know what to say. And you might feel that this is quite inauthentic. And you're completely valid for that. It does feel inauthentic. Having some habitual lines you can go to when things get weird, deliberately putting yourself in uncomfortable situations just so that you can get better and more comfortable in those situations. It feels inauthentic. But if you intend to change, why would practicing being someone that you want to be authentic to who you are right now? Let's say you're learning how to play soccer or football or whatever you call it, and you're kicking the ball towards the wall and it bounces back just to practice your kick power or your kick precision. You're not actually playing the soccer game. You're kicking it against the wall. But should you feel inauthentic for that? Or are you practicing for when you go into the soccer game? Let's say you're learning a new language. Let's say you're learning Chinese. Alright? Suddenly one day greeting someone in Chinese is gonna feel incredibly inauthentic, like a 你好吗? You know what I'm saying? That's inauthentic as fuck. But you are learning a new skill. And as you face those feelings of inauthenticity and discomfort more and more, what happens is this skill that you are learning becomes an extension of you. It becomes a medium of expression for you. And after a while, it no longer feels inauthentic. So learning these social skills, learning to become more comfortable, yes, it will feel inauthentic. But is it really inauthentic if it is something you genuinely want to be better at? Don't let your brain sabotage yourself from making progress. You are doing the right thing. You can absolutely change, and it is fine to change, and you have permission to change. Stick to it. In a few weeks' time, you won't even feel inauthentic about things you felt inauthentic about today. And soon you realize that when you look back, oh shit, you're already different and you're happier now. Oh shit, I'm even more different and I'm happier now. It's gonna be a beautiful journey for you. And this stuff actually works. It actually changes your life if you actually try. The hardest part is to keep showing up. Deliberately seeking out conversations and then learning to sit in it even if it's uncomfortable. Making it like a deliberate thing, like you actually hunt for it. And you actually try to increase the frequency of conversations in your life. It's not easy. It's gonna feel so weird and it's gonna feel so like uncomfortable, and you'll be hesitant and resistive towards doing it again and again. So you gotta go back home every day after a day of trying. You gotta take out your journal and really sit on it and think, why am I doing this? How do I feel today? Yeah, it was fucking terrifying, but after I did it, I actually felt more comfortable today. You gotta sit on it, you gotta make it deliberate, and wow. In a few weeks, you'll be so different. I think if you actually try to push your numbers, by numbers I mean the amount of conversations you have, and get more comfortable with it, you will actually easily make progress in 5 days or less. Like you will feel a difference. I mean, I can almost guarantee. And if you really want to change bad enough, take a look at my handbook in the description below. It will get you from beginner to comfortable around people. Anyways, you got this. I know you do. I love you. Good luck. 这边都